It's quite surreal how a matter of seconds can change your whole life. I want to share this story with what helped me move forward during that bad crash. I've gotten some comments about this topic in the past before. Is it normal to feel fear after a bad crash, or any crash for that matter? And spoiler alert, yes, it is normal. 2008, I woke up with metal in my bones and a body that didn't feel like mine. I hope this story helps you move forward with whatever experiences you're going through or have gone through. This video will be broken up in 5 parts, so you can look at the timeline below or in the description for different chapters of it. If one of the chapters don't interest you, like the day I almost died, you can skip ahead. Everyone's experience is vastly different regarding crashes, and I don't downplay anybody's crash. Even if they haven't been injured, if it was a minimal crash, everyone handles it differently, and there's a lot of people that have had a heck of a lot worse crashes than I've experienced. Part 1. The crash that almost ended my life. I had a brand new 2008 Yellow Anniversary Edition R6. I think I had it for about a week. I worked as much as I could on the motorcycle until the night before the race and left that night for Pennsylvania, which is about a 9-hour drive from North Carolina. When we got to the racetrack the following day in the early morning, I was still working on getting the motorcycle race ready. One of my biggest mistakes out of many mistakes that day was not swapping out the tires to race tires or track day tires. In my mind, I was just going to take it easy. I was just there to collect points. I wasn't there to push. During one of the practices, one of my contacts fell out and I didn't have any spare contacts with me. So I was like, I have some reference points. Here we are. I'm not going to not race because I can't see. That would be silly, right? There was a lot of red flags that day. I mean, like personal red flags, not actually on-track red flags. Race day, this is how sleep deprived I was. When they made the first call, see Superbike novice, first call. I remember getting up out of the folding chair and I looked at my buddy that I drove with that night and I said, something feels off. He looks me up and down and says, yeah, you have your boots on backwards. Again, another personal red flag. And I was like, oh, just got to swap them out. No big deal. That's an easy task. I lined up to the grid with the same mindset. I'm not going to push. I'm not going to push. Just here to collect points. And of course, when the flag drops, engines are revving, and you launch into turn 1, all that went out the window. It was competitive mindset right off the rip. And I started to push. About lap 3 or 4, somewhere around there, my tires just overheated. Street tires are not made to be pushed that hard on the racetrack. And when I went through turn 9, the fastest turn at Beeve Run at the time, now it's, I think, I don't know, it's changed so many times, I have no idea. Going through turn 9, felt like I hit an ice patch. The bike immediately low-sided. I tried to pick the motorcycle up, tried to save it, a little Marc Marquez action. As soon as I hit the grass, I knew there was no chance, and so I let go. Just wanted to get as far away from that hard impact object as possible. Let go of the bike. And everything happened in a matter of seconds. To me, it felt like minutes. Once I hit the grass, I remember looking up and seeing the Armco barriers. At the time, they didn't really have air fences very common around the local tracks. Usually they would have some hay bales, however, that corner didn't have any hay bales. I remember thinking, the speed that I was traveling, which was well over 100 miles an hour, and the distance to that Armco barrier was catastrophic. It was imminent death in my mind. I did the only thing I could in that moment, the only option I had left, and I started to pray. Then I just let go and let God do his thing. I remember my body becoming super limp, like dead weight came out of me. And the last thing I remember was the loud sound of my body cracking up against that Armco barrier. It sounded like a lightning bolt cracked by my ear, and it was lights out after that. By the grace of God, I survived that crash with a compound fracture to the tibia, the fibula, broken femur, broken hand, and a pretty severe concussion. I had 2 bones sticking out of my lower left leg. After that crash, I was in and out of consciousness. Momentarily here and there, I remember bits and pieces. The biggest thing was I wanted water. I was so thirsty and nobody would give me water. Eventually, they finally gave me some ice chips to shut me up, but they knew it was gonna happen. I didn't. Part 2, the aftermath in the hospital. I woke up pretty dazed and confused, as you can imagine. The first thing I asked for when I came to consciousness was for water. And it was the best most refreshing water I have ever tasted. It could have been toilet water, but it was the best water I've ever had in my life. The second question I had was, when's my surgery? And the nurse replied, you've already had your surgery. And just this huge sigh of relief. Thank God. At least that's out of the way. They put a rod from my knee to my ankle and about 3 or 4 long screws in my femur. The thumb was going to have to be operated in High Point with a hand specialist. My third question was, how's my bike? My friend that I came with at the time said, it's not that bad. It was that bad. It was absolutely totaled. I was in the Pennsylvania hospital for about a week or so, and it was a frightening time. The doctor said that I wouldn't be able to run again. It's a high probability that I would walk with a limp for the rest of my life. I remember doing everything I possibly could so that wouldn't happen. I did all the rehab that they suggested me to do during that time in Pennsylvania. 2 blood transfusions later and some aftermarket parts, and my journey back to North Carolina started. Part 3. The dark days and rehab. After I got back from the hospital, I was on bed rest for about 3 to 4 months. Now, I love being a lazy potato and just vegging out, being lazy. However, that much time confined to a bed is madness. There's only so much TV you can watch, books you can read, sleep you can do in a day for that amount of time. What I remember the most from that time period was the progress that I needed to make before I could take my first step. So I had to constantly put weight on a scale, and once it got to a certain amount of pounds, like 80 pounds or something like that, then I could attempt to take my first step again. So each and every day I'd get on the scale, put my left leg down, apply pressure, and if there was no pain at 80 pounds, then you could attempt to walk. That took a little bit of time. Thinking about taking your first step after not walking for that long, in my head, I was like, is my leg just gonna crumble this first step that I take? I took 1 step and another for a total of 5 steps and called it a day and was absolutely ecstatic. Small little goals. All of this is all about small little goals. During the rehab phase, I don't remember when things started to happen as far as crawl, walk, run type mentality. I just remember listening to my body. I was very smart about how I did it, and I was very consistent about how I did it. I don't remember how I got to walking, jogging, running for the first time, but it was a slow process. Eventually, I got to the point where I could run a marathon. And fast forward today, I jump out of planes now, which is pretty wild to me with all this inherited aftermarket parts. Part 4, getting back in the saddle. Getting back on the motorcycle and on the racetrack, I had a completely different mindset. I would brake when the other rider would brake so that I could overtake him on the brakes, which is a horrible way to ride. I was riding by the seat of my pants. When I was on the racetrack, I still had hairline fractures in my leg. There was no way I could risk a crash. So everything was in control, everything was smooth, everything was slow, everything was methodical in the way that I operated the motorcycle to prevent as much risk from crashing as possible. And I went faster, thinking that I was going slower. I went faster at every single racetrack except for the one I crashed in. When I got back to PA, definitely some nerves, sweaty palms, a lot of anxiety. I'm proud of myself for going back to that spot and making it through and being able to push through that mindset of don't do this is a bad idea, the brain just trying to protect the body. Just talking about this makes my palms a little sweaty and brings back some subconscious anxiety. It does take some rewiring of the brain in order to move past those fears that the mind is spitting out to you. You don't want to have fear paralyze you. However, you want to accept it, understand it, thank it, and focus on the task at hand. I had much more successful laps than I did horrible laps. This horrible crash that I had doesn't amount to the hundreds and hundreds of successful and good and happy laps I've had around the racetrack, and that's what I had to keep telling myself, and that's what was in the back of my mind. When it comes to riding the bike again for the first time, it's not about focusing on what could happen, what has happened. It's about what I've done, why I ride, and the task at hand. And at track days, I hear a lot of riders tell me about their fears when it comes to high speed, braking, cornering, lean angle. And that's, I believe, because they're focusing on all the bad things that could happen instead of all the successful laps that they've had that should build their confidence. You've done one successful lap without crashing. Amazing. You've done a track day session. Great. You've done track days. Awesome. And you keep building from that momentum instead of fear every single time you get into that situation that makes you nervous. I have a video regarding corner confidence that you can check out that might help you with some tips. It's okay to feel the nerves. We are human, and that is completely normal. Just don't let these nerves take over your mindset. Acknowledge it and focus on the task at hand. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared of jumping out of planes every time that I do it at 3 a.m. I definitely go through my nerves, but when it comes time to hook up, it's time to focus on the task at hand and my training that I've done. And of course, a lot of prayer before, during, and after the jump. Part 5 are the takeaways that I give to you from my experiences. My faith is my core, and these times of hardship and suffering just strengthens my faith and my belief. My mindset is focused on the positive things and not the negative things. Acknowledge the nerves and focus on the task at hand. Setting micro goals. This is very important. If I look at a goal of trying to go 10 seconds faster or run a marathon when I'm laid out in bed with bones coming out of my body, it looks a little daunting. Small goals. Sitting up in bed, victory for day 1. Getting out of bed and using the walker to go to the bathroom, another victory. Taking 5 steps, victory. Going on your first jog, you get the idea. Small incremental goals. Consistency in the rehab and not rushing the process. Listening to your body. And sometimes that means pushing past comfort, not the injury. It wasn't about intensity for me, it was about consistency. Stretching, range of motion, building my strength back, all done in increments. So in this phase and in this time period of your life, practice patience. There's always something to learn and something to improve upon in the phase that you're in right now. If you have any stories yourself, I would love to read them in the comments. If you're going through a story right now, know that you can make it. There is beauty and growth in change. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments. If you're looking for some tips on riding your motorcycle on the racetrack, check out this video, and I will see you in the next one.